Hey everyone, this is Josh from before. I'm here with McFarlane Toys Raven Spawn from the new Spawn line. And this is the probably my least anticipated figure from this wave, mostly just because I'm not super familiar with this character. I'm a big Spawn fan from back in the day, but I kind of tapped out before this era Raven Spawn showed up. It does remind me a bit more of, he reminds me a bit of Curse of the Spawn. That's more my that era is what I'm a little more familiar with. But sometimes the figures that you have low expectations for end up being the ones that are surprisingly fun. That's just kind of my experience. I like coming into something with low expectations because that kind of opens it up to be more surprising and fun. We'll see how this guy turns out. I just did a lap around the box. It's a sharp looking box, very bright, modern looking, nice colors. And I've been saying, I think it's time for them to start crediting their sculptors and painters and designers and art directors on these boxes. You know what I mean? Just make that move. Do the classy thing. Support the artists that work for you. Give them credit. I think that would be a nice touch. Let's just get him out. Really, really awesome sculpt on this. He looks like he looks like the Necronomicon, from Evil Dead 2. Like he looks like he's wearing this armor made out of like human skin leather with screaming faces and skulls on it, and all these spikes on his gauntlet, these massive gauntlets with these spikes. And then this cloak. Look at the back of that. That's so cool. This is very reminiscent, I think, of a lot of the Mortal Kombat figures they've been doing that really just have fantastic textures throughout. And they're just a real treat to just look at all the little details on this guy. Even his back under his cape. It looks like the Necronomicon. Also a little reminiscent of the Bram Stoker's Dracula, that armor, that red muscle-y looking armor that Gary Oldman wears. That's kind of reminds me of this with these muscle striations. It's cool. This chain hanging down around his waist. Could have used maybe a little extra paint on that chain, but it's fine. It is what it is. We gotta deal with modern paint applications. Fantastic paint though on the face with those glowing green eyes and those teeth. The head is independent of the rest of the cloak, so it just moves like a normal head. It's nothing. They didn't get cute with his hood or anything like that. Oh, that just popped right out. Wow. That popped out, but it went right back in. It's not broken. I kind of pushed it a little hard. I'm trying to figure out how these... So this shoulder has this soft thing over it that is meant to go up underneath here. That kind of gets in the way of a shoulder rotation. You could maybe bring this out above here, but it looks a little weird. Yeah, so these soft pieces, while they look great and they're kind of a nice touch, they just give you just enough resistance, like when you start getting the shoulders right there, that it just pushes it right out of that peg on both sides. It's a little annoying. It's certainly preferable to just those shoulder joints just popping off and breaking permanently, but it's going to be an issue. I mean, obviously he's got this rotation and he can do, this kind of move, but getting those shoulders all the way up, it might be a bit tricky. Yeah, see, I'm trying to play with it and kind of put a little bit of pressure on it to get it there. The weird thing is that, I mean, it's not weird. It's kind of clever, but what part of the issue is that this shoulder thing is connected to the bicep and not like the shoulder itself. which I think is somewhat clever engineering, but also just impairs that movement. And then likewise, he's got this bicep cut, but that shoulder piece is so odd and difficult to. It works a little better here. That one's working on quite a bit better. You see that? That's really well. See, when it works as intended, that's really satisfying engineering. It's just a little tougher. It might need to play with. Might need to put in warm water to get it really loose. I think once it gets a bit softened up and can work as intended, it's pretty clever design. He's got double elbows. They don't look fantastic when they're bent, but they get pretty far up there considering how big his gauntlets are. A little ugly up inside there, but you know, it is what it is. Man, his forearm gauntlets are just spikes on every side. That is moving at the diaphragm. He's got a waist there as well. Waist and a diaphragm. Very little crunch. This front piece and the way this hangs down, he just doesn't have much crunch. He can definitely bend back a bit, but man, getting forward is not going to happen, I don't think. Great movement in the legs and rotation in the thigh. I mean, he's got really high kicks. That's pretty nice. Although I think that I don't know, the design of this character doesn't necessarily, to me, suggest like jumping or acrobatic poses. It's nice that he has this range. Knees look quite a bit better than the elbows when they're bent. It's got a lot of clearance on that knee pad that gets all the way up there. That's pretty enjoyable to do. Ball joints on the ankles that are hidden underneath this I don't know what to call it, but it's cool looking. And then the ball joints are tucked up under there, in his ankle, or his wrist, I mean, pretty well. But have a lot of range. That's nice. That's soft right there, so that can clear that. This guy's fun. The shoulder were giving me some heartburn at the beginning, but I still think this thing's pretty damn cool. Let's see his accessories. So he's got two really wicked accessories. This staff axe thing. Could have used a little bit of extra paint, but the sculpt is really rad. This really, to me, harkens back to the days of all the wacky, weird Spawn variants. And then he's got this super cool 2 hooks on a big long chain. Great detail, wrapped handle, that chain. This thing is super cool. I love the potential of the kind of motion in it. So while I always love a character with like a staff or a trident type thing, the way, because of his shoulders, I'm having a hard time getting him in a pose that really, in like a powerful stance where he's sort of holding that staff in a way that it kind of feels believable and feels powerful. Feels a little awkward to have him hold that just because I'm struggling with these shoulders. This is the cooler accessory for me, which is gonna suggest a lot more motion than the So it's definitely cool holding it from the bigger hook with the chain flipping back, but really I want to see, I'm more interested in something like this, where if he's holding it from that smaller hook, and really taking advantage of that sense of motion and depth and dimension that this crazy hook can provide, swinging hook. The biggest the struggle here is that this figure has just a stillness about him, about his like sculpt, and about some of his articulation limitations. You kind of like he you know, if you're holding it in your hand and you're kind of listening to what it's trying to tell you, it's trying to tell you that it wants to be in a power pose, like just a stoic, strong stance. But this hook thing makes me want him to do, you know, some wild posing, and it's a bit of a struggle. There's definitely a lot of potential. It's going to take some wrestling with, I think, to really give him a pose that is going to suit it. I mean, you just see, like, you look at this guy. He's great to look at, wonderful to look at. Just takes a little higher degree of difficulty in the getting just the right pose, I think. So I really want to see this guy next to some of my favorite classic variants, Spawn variants from back in the day. This is Zombie Spawn and Viking Spawn over here. I got a lot of playtime with these two back in the day. These were a couple of my favorites. And he fits in pretty well with them. Here he is with the new Gunslinger Spawn and the Mortal Kombat Al Simmons Spawn. And just one thing to note, this guy balances pretty well. I mean, I've just got him. You can see he's barely making contact with the surface, and he's holding both these weird accessories, and he's pretty sturdy. Here he's with Kickstarter Spawn and the new Clown, and this kind of shows you this more drab, brown and dark gray paint job just doesn't quite pop the way, you know, these brighter, more colorful characters does. Which that's the way he's designed, but, you know, it's just worth taking note of. Here he is with Build-A-Figure Bane and Build-A-Figure Mr. Hyde. You can see these 7-inch McFarlanes are pretty big next to Legends, which, in my opinion, gives them a lot more presence on the shelf. But, you know, I know some of you are all in on 6-inch, and that would make these maybe a bit of a might make a 6-inch collector less inclined to pick these up. But for me, I prefer the 7-inch. I really love what McFarlane's doing with these. This guy's pretty sharp. He is thus far my least favorite of this wave, but he's got this wonderful dark, you know, heavy metal magazine look about him, which is a lot of fun. So there you go, guys. I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.